Carter's office, inside Janet Carter's office, there are photographs of the administrative areas of the support center.
So how do you make, administrative offices in the photocopier room beautiful? How do you make that art?
Oh, it's beautiful by its own nature. It's beautiful because it's part of a larger collection of back of house. The nobility of the back of house is that it keeps the front of house running, and all of those spaces that the staff occupy day in and day out that the public never sees. I think there's a beauty to them. There's an everyday beauty to them.
And part of the way that you create that beauty and capture it is in the approach that you take sort of technologically with this walking frame. Tell me about what you look for as you're rolling along these hallways of bathrooms and so on of the ROM. Do you observe sort of a color? Do you like to see contrasts of shape, or do you just pan along and see what comes?
What we really looked for when we were setting things up was a route, a walking route where we could freely stroll through and around and really into almost every corridor that we were able to get into. It isn't about any one particular place, it's about every place, about the entire
Are you recording?
Do you have a favorite section? Do you have a favorite result?
Really there's some unbelievable places that the public will get a chance to see over the weekend. A lot of the back of house areas are open as part of the centenary celebration, but the machine rooms are beautiful. The antler room was beautiful. The bird room, the bird storage vaults were unbelievable. The conservation labs where they conserve and restore all of the artifacts were amazing. And even the planetarium, which has been closed for many years, is now being used as a Canadian collection.
Yeah.
So even though it's closed, it still has its nobility, and it's a beautiful space.
I'm imagining so many people getting right up close and taking the time to explore, as you have, through a close examination of your photos this weekend. Tell me what's next for you. I mean, you talk about the entire city project. Are you going to cover those?
Every year I add a dozen or so images to the entire city project. I have an architectural practice, which is very active. I also have a public art practice with my partner, David Roby. We're about to finish the public art commission at the Ripley's Toronto Aquarium, and I'm very much involved as a co-founder in the Toronto Media Arts Centre, which is under construction now, 40,000 feet, dedicated to new media arts, and it will be opening in about a year.
现在有99的 library
Looking forward to being in the
在
room.
around it. 但是他们plan on opening another one to 100.
Locations around the city. Perhaps you've seen the one at Terminal 1 at Pearson Airport. Ringing a bell. His newest work showcases every inch of the Royal Ontario Museum. It will be on display in the ROM's Roelof Benney Gallery beginning tomorrow. This is part of the ROM Revealed Weekend that throws the doors open to all the secret parts of the museum this weekend. It's also part of the Scotiabank Contact Photography Festival that runs all month. Well, Lorenda Redekop is here now with an update on the top stories this hour from the CBC Newsroom. Well, the top story, no surprise here. Election day is just around the corner. June 12th, Ontarians will head to the polls. As well, the fans are already at Maple Leaf Square, or Jurassic Park as it's becoming known. That's ahead of the Raptors' Game 6 playoff game against Brooklyn. Thank you, Lorenda. And Lori Turcotte has another look at the roads for us this hour.
Well, Jill, it's busy on all the major routes. The good news is there are no problems to tell you about. Keep in mind, with the closure of the Don Valley Parkway tonight at 10 p.m., you're going to need to plan your route accordingly.
All right, thanks, Lori. It's 11 degrees right now. It's going down to low 6 tonight. We are going to see a lot of clouds this weekend. Cloudy skies tomorrow and a 60% chance of showers. Ross Hull says there's a chance that we may see thunder showers tomorrow afternoon, adding a little drama to the rain. High tomorrow, 12 degrees. Sunday, cloudy, 40% chance of showers, high of 12 degrees. I'm Jill Deacon. You are listening to Here and Now on CBC Radio 1. You can join the conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts about all the goings-on of this day. We're on Twitter and Facebook at CBC Here and Now.
tonight. The Penguins have won all 4 Stanley Cup playoff series they've played against the Rangers. Will they make it 5? Or is it time for the Rangers to put that stat on ice? New York, Pittsburgh, Game 1 at 7 p.m. Eastern, with all games streaming live at CBCSports.ca. The 2014 NHL Stanley Cup playoffs on CBC's Hockey Night in Canada. It's more than a game, it's the Cup. Coming up in 90 minutes, take a trip around the world with As It Happens.
Hello, I'm Jeff Douglas. Tonight, a parent's desperation. A father has not seen his 18-year-old daughter for nearly 3 weeks after she was kidnapped along with almost 300 other schoolgirls in Nigeria. His story, later on As It Happens.
This is CBC News. It's 3 o'clock Mountain, 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern. Good afternoon. I'm Bernie McNamee with the world this hour. First to Ukraine, where it's been the deadliest violence so far between supporters of the Kiev government and pro-Russian activists.
Maro, you farted, right? Maro.
I heard my heart. More than 30 activists died in a fire deliberately set to a nuclear hideaway. The tragedy follows a day of running battles between the two camps that claimed at least 4 more lives. Rioters used rocks, baseball bats, and Molotov cocktails. Meantime, Ukraine's interim president says the government offensive in the east of the country has left many pro-Russian militants killed, injured, and under arrest. But Alexander Turchinov also admits Ukrainian troops are meeting with fierce resistance. Gunmen opened fire on a Ukrainian military helicopter flying over the city of Sloviansk. The government says separatists shot down 2 of its helicopters in the area, killing 2 soldiers. The government also claims its troops have seized all the checkpoints set up around the city, but inside Sloviansk, the separatists are very much in control. Residents have been cutting down trees to reinforce barricades, and heavily armed men in uniform are patrolling the streets. In Moscow, a presidential spokesman says the use of the Ukrainian army against its own people is leading Ukraine to catastrophe. But in Washington, Barack Obama says there's no doubt Russia is behind the unrest.
It is obvious to the world that these Russian-backed groups are not peaceful protesters. They are heavily armed militants who are receiving significant support from Russia. The Ukrainian government has the right and responsibility to uphold law and order within its territory, and Russia needs to use its influence over these paramilitary groups so they disarm and stop violence.
UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting on Ukraine at Russia's request. Canada is increasing its military participation in NATO's reassurance mission in Eastern Europe. 50 Canadian soldiers will head to Poland to take part in military exercises there. Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird says it's important that NATO show its unity as it confronts Russia's involvement in Ukraine.
To show in tangible terms that we're standing in solidarity with our Eastern European NATO allies. Obviously, we're abhorred with Russia's incursion into Ukraine, and we want to send a very loud, clear, and tangible message that the alliance is strong and stands ready to honor the commitments that we've made collectively and to each other.
Canada has already committed 6 CF-18 jets and the frigate HMCS Regina to the NATO mission. The UN says at least 350 people have been killed and many more are missing after a huge landslide in Afghanistan. A mountainside collapsed in the northeast of the country after days of heavy rains. Rescue workers and local residents are digging to reach those trapped, but progress is slow. The BBC's David Loyne has more from Kabul.
The governor of Badakhshan province tells us more than 2,500 people are now missing. 300 homes were destroyed immediately when this mountain collapsed. Another 700 are threatened. There are 2 villages that were affected, he tells us, but one of the villages, people managed to get out of their homes, scrambled out of those homes quickly. But in this other village, thousands of people lost. It was a Friday morning, a holiday here, a day when people who do work outside the village will have been there. And also we understand there was a wedding going on when the homes were engulfed, so people had no chance to get out as the mountain moved, and rescuers who we talked to are
Ontarians are going to the polls on June 12th. Liberal Premier Kathleen Wynne made the announcement at the provincial legislature with a plea to voters to re-elect her government.
As a province, we've gone through some tough times together. There is absolutely no doubt about that. The global recession hit us hard. But our recovery is taking hold. It's taking hold steadily, and it's taking hold persistently. Companies are hiring again. Confidence has begun to rise. We're finding our footing. We're on our way back. But we cannot put that at risk. We need to move forward with a steady, balanced approach. We can't veer off to the left or the right. We can't risk that.
An election became inevitable after NDP leader Andrea Horwath said earlier today that her party would not support the Liberal budget tabled yesterday. Horwath says Wynne's government hasn't kept promises on reducing auto insurance, adding an accountability office, and improving home care.
The same government that couldn't fill these 3 promises in the last year is making more than 70 new promises this year. How can Kathleen Wynne build a ship when she hasn't even managed to build a raft?
For his part, Conservative leader Tim Hudak says he's eager to hit the campaign trail and promote what his party calls its Million Jobs plan. The Prime Minister and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada have escalated their public spat. Stephen Harper says taking a call from the Chief Justice about a judicial appointment would be wrong, but Justice Beverly McLaughlin says it's normal for her to offer advice on what the court needs in a new appointee. Alison Crawford reports.
I think it's horrible what is happening.
Liberal MP Stéphane Dion appeared to be shocked by statements from the government about Supreme Court Chief Justice Beverly McLaughlin.
Here is attacking the Chief Justice, leaking information that may be right or wrong, vague information that may intend that she did something improper.
Today, Prime Minister Stephen Harper followed up on a statement released.
Well,